is the story of the changes brought about in a great industry with the coming of war. The candy industry, but a few short months ago, made delicious confections and nothing else. It was a huge peacetime business supplying peacetime needs. The New England Confectionery Company is one of the largest units of that business. Its personnel, applying the skills developed in nearly 100 years of candy craftsmanship, daily produced thousands upon thousands of candy bars, boxed chocolates, and other popular candies. Famous peacetime products, these. You'll recognize them as familiar to your candy counters. There's the only candy bar of its kind, Sky Bar, with the 4 different centers, here being sent through the wrapping machines. Nimble fingers and almost human machines work always under scientific methods of cleanliness. Other machines help other craftsmen and women to make such well-known favorites as Necco Bolster. On this one item alone, nearly 4,000 boxes, each containing 24 bars, are made daily. Some are wrapped by clever hands, others by clever machines. Another famous Necco product is the boxed mint, known in New England as Canada mints, elsewhere as Chase mints. Intricate machines stack and deliver these delicious pulverized sugar lozenges, while speedy hands make short work of whisking them, when boxed, into cartons. Necco chocolate mint patty is another favorite, skillfully wrapped by hand. And Necco chocolate peppermints have long been a delightful standby, known from the coasts of Maine to the coasts of California. To show you the intricacies of candy making, and for comparison later, let's follow a roll of Necco wafers from the very start. The carrier you see is traveling from a primary mixing vat toward a final kneading machine. It contains lozenge dough already mixed and flavored with one of 8 popular flavors. The kneader is now preparing 500 pounds of Necco wafers to be for the machine, which will roll it out into a thin sheet and send it sailing smoothly under a stamping device, which will cut out the wafers and imprint the Necco trademark on each one. Modern, efficient conveyors transport the 1,200 pounds of Necco wafers made every hour to a slow-moving dryer. For more than an hour, these millions of wafers bake in a controlled atmosphere. Soon they hop out of the dryer and are loaded into trays for an additional 24-hour conditioning at room temperatures. Now comes the process in which visitors are most interested. How are Necco wafers assorted? Here's how. Layer upon layer of finished wafers are stacked on the assorting table. The mixture? Well, there are 2 trays of white, 1 1/2 of chocolate, and 1 each of the other 6 flavors. The assorting table has a movable belt. Necco wafers pour from the tabletop to a conveyor, all assorted. Simple, isn't it? A machine helps these girls stack Necco wafers. Their nimble fingers take just the right number of wafers to make one roll. Notice how fast these skilled hands work. It takes lots of practice for this job. It was this type of manual dexterity that was to play a big part in the story of candy and conversion. So you can see how a great business moved peacefully along. Busy hands and busy machines cooperating to fill a big demand until... Until a quiet Sunday in December 1941. From that early morning on, the lives of every man and woman, every business were changed. People in all walks of life came suddenly face to face with the most distasteful news of all, war. No longer would industry move peacefully. Now every effort must be bent toward mobilization for the final victory. The General Radio Corporation, a nearby neighbor of the New England Confectionery Company, faced immediately the prospect of ballooning production to many times normal size. They must find additional working space, skilled personnel, machines to turn out the products of war. Being neighbors, it was natural for them to get together. Necco volunteering their ideal manufacturing facilities and skilled operators. General Radio interested in seeing how well their candy-making neighbors could do electrical work. Out of long conferences came a plan. Necco, the maker of fine candies, would cooperate in supplying the engineering ability and desirable dexterity of skillful hands, as well as the huge amounts of factory space. After weeks of drafting and planning how best to use the available personnel and air-conditioned manufacturing space, operations began. At first, in a small way, then, like topsy, growing and growing, until today, several floors are devoted to war work. Necco people began switching from familiar candy jobs to the unfamiliar ones of wiring and soldering, winding and assembling. New department after new department now produce the materials of victory. Manufacturing items here, assembling them there. In this radio department are made many component parts for the electronics industry. Transformers, variacs, potentiometers, and strobotacs, radio testing equipment, and radio phone jacks. The nimble fingers that once made candy now do very fine soldering work. This is transformer core assembly. The small part is placed carefully in a can or cover. It is delicate work, requiring hands accustomed to delicate jobs. This is one reason why Necco could so quickly step in to help break a bottleneck. From the canning operation, Necco-built transformers are placed on a revolving table, move around, and are filled with wax. The partly assembled transformer then gets a cover of mica. Notice again how skillful hands are needed to thread wires quickly. An arbor press crimps the cover on. And here's the finished product. Not much like candy, is it? But it's just one more reason why the day of victory is approaching faster. In this jumbled stack of wires is the beginning of another Necco product that will help make trouble for the enemy. Those nimble Necco fingers are at work again, this time constructing the most complicated of cables for assembly into larger units. Many older Necco employees enjoy war work, pushing a truckload of cables with a smile as a Necco member of the Quarter Century Club. More than 25 years of loyal service are represented here. A large and interesting Necco assembly is the strobotac. This is a sub-assembled part nearing the final stages of completion. You may have seen this device many times in peace. It is a high-speed lighting unit that, when properly regulated and timed, can flicker its light on rotating objects and cause them to appear stopped. Final step, of course, is placing the intricate assembly into its finished case. One of many, another strobotac on its way to win the war. This should be plenty of evidence that magical things can be accomplished under this democracy for which we are fighting. With America's system of free enterprise, the New England Confectionery Company could expand at will to convert even more space to war production. This it did to help out another nearby manufacturer, the Toby Deutschmann Company. The Toby problem was considered in meeting, and another bottleneck to be with profit. Again, in the New England spirit of cooperation, one manufacturer helped another. This time, the planning, designing, and actual building of new and more efficient machines was part of the job. Necco engineering ability turned to the task. The machine shop craftsmen actually built the machines you will see. So complete is their shop that not once did Necco need to go outside their own facilities or plant for assistance. These rows of specially designed and built machines are winding dependable capacitors. They must handle tissue-thin craft paper and thinner aluminum foil, so delicate that the touchman is fluent. The winding process requires expert workmanship of exceptional accuracy, so that the electrical characteristics will, in turn, be most exacting. needle gauge in the upper left unerringly counts the footage of the materials while the operator's eyes keep a watch so that no wrinkle will mar the performance of these condensers. Metal leads are inserted in their proper places, later to be soldered to lead-out wires. Then the winding is finished, the outer wrap firmly fixed in place. A parade of condensers, everyone like his brother, is made ready for the form. In addition to the many semi-automatic multiple winders, a whole section of this department is devoted to specialized windings, many so tiny that they must be made by hand. As an aid to accuracy in this fine work, the whole room is air-conditioned. Small hand operation is just like its larger counterpart, but here extreme accuracy is essential. 3 of these tiny finished units are canned together to make one condenser. All of the different windings we have seen are clamped under pressure in these forms. Here they are made ready for the impregnating room. In this room, it seems more evident than ever how Necco has applied the quality and cleanliness of candy manufacture to the making of electronic parts. In this impregnator, the capacitors have spent the last 18 hours. First, under as nearly perfect a vacuum as possible to remove all traces of moisture. Then impregnated with hot oil or wax to keep the moisture out. To make sure that no moisture can gain entrance to the windings, they are kept in cooling tanks of oil or wax until just before use in an assembly. The windings are taken direct from the cooling tanks to the long assembly lines, where they are speedily turned into the finished product. Here you see accomplished girls soldering the condenser can, an unusual operation for women. Note, too, how far a cry this is from the making of candies. Here, a young lady is wedging the trunk of the tiniest of windings. These are the ones you saw wound by hand. She is using aluminum solder, definitely tricky to use. On all of the many types of war production work done by Necco, they have always met or bettered the pace required. In this room, a dozen types of soldering are done. Degreasing removes excess oil. Spraying with a special kind of liquid assures airtightness of the capacitor. Capacitor covers are applied, hammered on by hand. Their final soldering is done by these skilled women. In another part of the factory, finished condensers are prepared for the important heat test, which is their next to final inspection. In the heat tester, condensers are warm and the oil inside them expands. Obviously, if there is any opening or leak, the oil will seep through, establish the defect, which sends the capacitor back to be corrected. Now the final test. Necco-made products come through with colors of flying. A parade of marching products passes inspection to make sure that their capacity and voltage are exactly right. And so the parade marches off to the wars, battalion after battalion, to do its part in keeping this democracy alive, in keeping our boys on the winning side. The New England Confectionery Company makes over 100 products to help speed the day of victory. Products you have seen here swiftly go into the machines of war. In the hearts of dauntless fighter planes, in the bouncing jeep, in the depths of rolling tanks, and into the very nerves for communication, go these component parts of the electronic engine. Products of Necco, the candy maker. Still the production of fine candy continues. Rationing has laid its heavy hand on the candy industry, yes, but stay as ever. Delicious, energy-filled Necco candy their long hours. The average candy buyers, like you and me, will still be able to get the candy they want, though not as frequently nor in the same quantities we might like. For Necco candy, like so many other essentially peacetime products, have made way for the more important job of winning the war. A government order headed overseas for our boys in North Africa or some other distant point. Yes, in more ways than one, Necco is on